So after coming up with the design for my handpiece, um, I thought about it a lot in terms of the end user, the context, and whether my design's appropriate, um, as well as the kind of materials and things that I've decided I want to use. Um, so if I talk about the my end who my end user is first. So my end user is men who are interested in the Japanese street style aesthetic. Therefore, I feel that if we just look at this criteria, then the design makes sense because it is based on Gothic Lolita, and it has a lot of those qualities. So the materials reflect the theme, and the shapes reflect the theme, and just the overall design of the individual rings, as I've already specified, and of the webbing, the way the things are going to hang, whatever material I decide that's going to be. It could be chain, or it could be like something more like lace or ribbon. I haven't quite decided yet, but whatever it is, the way it hangs in the drawing looks like Gothic architecture interiors, so it looks like ribbed vaults and the kind of webbing that you'd find on the ceiling of a Gothic church. So what I've decided aesthetically reflects my chosen theme, Gothic Lolita, which is Japanese street style. So in that case, if you're a man and you're interested in the street style aesthetic, this theoretically should appeal to you. So in that way, I feel that I've achieved what I needed to achieve. So having established that, the next thing to think about is whether, the materials I've chosen, they are relevant to the theme, like the mild steel and the pewter. One of the main reasons why I decided I was going to use pewter to create those three rings is because of the process I've chosen to create the rings, which is the cuttlefish casting. So because my designs are quite elaborate and complex and intricate, I feel that this is the best process to create them. But a happy, well, it's not really a coincidence because metal is very Gothic anyway. And just innate, like the quality of metal, the colour of metal, it fits very well with the Gothic colour palette, and just this idea of like things like weaponry and armour and harshness and hardness, and metal fits in with Gothic very well. And also metal is used within Gothic Lolita jewellery, like brooches and necklace chains and things, so it all fits very well. But when I polish the pewter up, I imagine that it will look quite knife-like, especially with the points on the rings. So all of this together encompasses the theme very well. And when I do go on to think about what I'm going to do for the web section, obviously I'll be taking into consideration the quality of those materials and how they reflect the theme, because that's very important. So materials aside, This design is very interesting and is very unconventional, but that is the point, because Japanese street fashion is innovative and it is unconventional. So, and the point, and practicality, I mean, to an extent, it is important because it has to be wearable, to an extent, but it's not really a priority. So my design, from what I've tested out so far, it is wearable, and I have taken into consideration not making it overly complex, so that it's just like impossible to wear, because I mean it has to be wearable to be classed as jewelry. So the design is feasible and it is wearable, but it's not the most practical because practicality isn't the main priority in street fashion. The main priority is the expression and making a statement, a fashion statement, and expressing what you want to express. So in this case, what I'm intending to express is the Gothic Lolita aesthetic. So, and that my design is doing that. So, like, the reason why the rings are worn, because obviously normally you would wear a ring at the bottom of your finger, but in this case they're worn either at the top or in the middle, because it's unconventional and because it's new and or fairly new. I mean, I've seen some jewelry which is worn and different, but that's more of a niche. So this is a niche. So the point is that it's worn like this. One, because of the way the webbing is going to hang off it. The webbing complements the shape of your fingers, so your jewelry is like complementing your hand rather than just being stuck on your hand. And then also it's because it's an expression of what Japanese street fashion is, and an expression of being different but being aesthetically pleasing. It's about the aesthetic and the expression rather than the practicality. So I mean, if you look at a lot of examples of what people wear in Japan, Japanese street fashion, it's not always the most practical. So yeah. So if I'm thinking about my context, initially in my brief I stated that yes, I stated that I was going to create jewelry for men inspired by Japanese streetwear, and it was supposed to be something that I was going to sell. Like, so the point of these products is to sell them. That's the ultimate goal. Like, that's the context, but I didn't specify where, like, what kind of market specifically. So I hadn't decided whether it was going to be something that was mass produced, or something that was going to be more kind of bespoke, or like high street or high fashion. So I hadn't initially specified that. Looking at my project in terms of the direction it's going and the kind of work that I'm producing, the kind of jewelry that I'm producing, my jewelry is more suited to bespoke like to be made as something that is luxury and bespoke rather than something that is mass produced, because it is a niche. I mean, a lot of subcultures are very niche, so it wouldn't really make sense to be like mass producing it. And I see myself as a designer maker rather than just a designer, or the process of actually making the jewelry is very important to me as well. So if I'm a designer maker, then the context of my work is going to be luxury bespoke jewelry that is made to order rather than that is ready made, and for men who like the Japanese street style aesthetic. So that's my specified context. Yeah, so this kind of nature of bespoke, kind of one-off individuality, it just suits the characteristics of Japanese street style a lot more also. And so now that I've established my context and my end user, which is the client, the customer of the man who is interested in Japanese street style, my next step is to go ahead and make the rings as I've planned, and just make sure that I keep testing it out on my model as it's made to fit him. And once I've done that, develop the web section, the materials that I'm going to use, and just test out if that will really work and achieve the look that I'm wanting to.